If you or a family member have been hurt because of the careless actions of another person, call Walker Texas Lawyer. They'll work to get you the financial compensation and justice you deserve. They have 40 years of experience, and you don't pay unless you win. Call 713-881-9653 today for a consultation or go to walkertexaslawyer.com.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now?
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Matthew McConaughey.
Brad Gilmore.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The legendary Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Christopher, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. Great introduction.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
Kelly Ripa.
Brad, thank you for having me.
Comedy.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Chris Tucker is in the building. Chris Tucker, good morning to you.
Hey, Brad. Good morning to you. How are you?
Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias.
Good morning.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What lucky to talk to me, funny lad.
Grammy Award winner Maya joins us.
How are you?
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat, Brad Gilmore.
And he's joining me right now. He is the author of What Do You Mean Murder? Clue in the Making of a Cult Classic. The author, John Hatch, is joining us. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for writing this book. Clue the movie seems to continue to permeate the pop culture atmosphere here in the United States and abroad. And it continues to have new forms of media coming out documenting that time. And one of those is your book. What made you want to write What Do You Mean Murder?
I've been waiting for someone else to write it. I've wanted to know how this movie got made. And then in about 2021, I saw the movie in a theater. It was playing in a local theater where I live. And I started noticing stuff. And I thought, well, you know, if nobody else is going to write this, then I will. I know how to research. I don't know about other stuff, but I know how to research, so I can do that.
So during this process of you researching the book, the movie for the book, what were some of the interesting stories and anecdotes and tidbits that you came across that perhaps you didn't know before?
I think a big one that some fans know is that Carrie Fisher was cast as Miss Scarlet. And a lot of fans know that, but what they've always thought was that, you know, Carrie Fisher went into rehab and that's why she couldn't play the part. And then people thought, oh, then they brought on Leslie Ann Warren. But actually, Leslie Ann Warren had already been cast as Mrs. White, and she was supposed to play Mrs. White. Leslie Ann Warren was supposed to play Miss Scarlet. And instead, it was Madeline Kahn they brought on at the last minute, and they put her as Mrs. White, shuffled Leslie Ann Warren over. This was like 2 weeks before filming started. They were really rushing it, and both actresses had to go in and figure it out very, very quickly, and then gave, you know, to my mind, probably the two best performances in the movie.
It definitely seems as though they were meant to play the roles that they ended up eventually getting, even with the whole Carrie Fisher of it all. Now, this movie, when it came out in 1985, you and I have spoken many times before about this film, but when this movie came out in 1985, it was not a hit. It was not particularly well reviewed. It wasn't a financial success, wasn't commercial success. Why do you think 30 plus years later, it's now kind of getting the shine and recognition that perhaps it deserved all those years ago?
I think because in some ways, because it flopped, because then it was cheap to license on television and for cable. And kids discovered it on television and cable in the late 80s and early 90s. And that's really what it was. This was before we had, 500 channels or anything like that. I remember growing up with cable in the mid to late 80s. There were 30 channels. You knew which one was which. You would be home from school, you'd flip on, whatever, and hey, there was Clue. And I think kids found it. It really appeals to kids. kids, some of the innuendo, some of the more adult stuff sails over their heads. But the slapstick, the people running into each other, falling chandeliers, running around, screaming, that kids got, and they really, really loved it. And I think those people who saw it as kids grew up and they still love it, and they get some of the more adult stuff, some of the political themes, and then they introduce their kids to it. And now it's definitely a cult classic.
Would you say that's the appeal of the movie, that it has a generational feel to it, to where you can be older and watch it, be younger and watch it? And because one of the things about the movie is the comedy isn't a one style. It's very all over the place. There's stuff for everyone in the movie. Would you say that's the appeal of it, or is it the murder mystery of it all? Is it the fact that it's based on a board game? Is it the fact that we love the cast? Is there one particular thing that makes this movie continue to find a fandom?
I think you've nailed it. It's the comedy and the variety of comedy. The murder mystery is great. It's fun, but I mean, once you've seen it, you know who done it, and there's no reason to keep coming back to it just for the mystery. And so people keep coming back to it for the comedy, and it's really easy to find new stuff, especially because it moves so fast. The director screened His Girl Friday for the cast, and he said, "This is how fast I want you to go." And it moves very, very quickly. And I think he's even said maybe it moves a little too quickly, but I don't know. It's pretty good.
It's phenomenal, and I know the people who are watching this or may have never seen the movie. If you haven't, please go do so, and then pick up a copy of John Hatch's book, "What Do You Mean Murder? Clue and the Making of a Cult Classic." John, they can get this in all bookstores, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Online
Anywhere.
retailers?
Online retailers, bookstores, anywhere they like.
All right, John Hatch, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.